Championship Wrestling, bringing you great wrestling action sanctioned by the NWA, the National Wrestling Alliance.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to World Championship Wrestling. I'm David Crockett, Tony Schiavone. Tony, we saw...
Hello again, everybody, and welcome to World Championship Wrestling on TBS. We are coming to you this week not from the studio, but from the Georgia Mountain Center, and fans, we have a tremendous night of professional wrestling on tap here at 6:05. That's right, Tony, and there is a lot going on in the National Wrestling Alliance right now. Everybody is talking about the controversy surrounding the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. Bob Backlund won the title, no question about that, but Lex Luger and Baby Doll have apparently taken off with the big gold belt. That is the situation as we understand it, David. Bob Backlund is recognized as the NWA World Heavyweight Champion, and tonight he will defend the championship right here on television in a very rare TV main event against Ole Anderson. And because the big gold belt is not here tonight, the NWA has brought out the classic 10 pounds of gold belt to represent the World Championship in this title defense. And Tony, Ole Anderson feels like he's been overlooked. He beat Bob Backlund by countout just a few cards ago, and Ole believes that should have put him right to the front of the line. Well, tonight, he gets 20 minutes with the world champion, and you know Ole Anderson is coming to win that title. And speaking of championships, the Four Horsemen will be in action tonight in another huge title match. The NWA World Six-Man Tag Team titles will be on the line as Ric Flair, Arn Anderson, and Tully Blanchard defend against Terry Funk, Dory Funk Jr., and Jimmy Jack Funk. Tony, just think about that. The Four Horsemen already control so much gold in the NWA. Arn and Tully are the World Tag Team Champions, Ric Flair is the United States Heavyweight Champion, and now tonight they have to defend the World Six-Man belts against one of the roughest, meanest combinations you could ever put together in one ring. And David, the Funk family is loaded with momentum right now. Terry and Dory already hold the Florida and United States Tag Team titles, and now they are trying to add the World Six-Man belts to the collection. That one could get completely out of hand in a hurry. It sure could, Tony. We are also expecting to see Barry Windham in action tonight in a non-title match. Originally, Barry was scheduled to face Iron Mike Sharp, but word just before airtime is that Sharp is not feeling well and may not be able to compete. We're trying to get more information on that situation right now. And if Barry Windham does wrestle tonight, Tony, that is a huge opportunity for whoever steps in there with him. Barry is the NWA World Television Champion, and there are a whole lot of men lining up for a shot at that title. We've also got Mike Rotundo taking on Al Perez, Rocky Johnson facing Hangman Bobby Jaggers, Kendall Windham going one-on-one with Kamala, and a six-man tag team match featuring Brian Blair, Jack Briscoe, and Mike Graham against Super Destroyer, Conga the Barbarian, and Abdullah the Butcher with Paul Jones. You better stay with us, Tony. This is one of those nights where anything can happen. World title match. World six-man title match. Controversy everywhere you look. Fans, don't go anywhere. World Championship Wrestling starts right now. Kendall Windham had his hands full from the opening bell against the returning Kamala, who looked every bit as dangerous as Paul Jones had promised. Windham tried to keep the match in his kind of pace early, using snap maras, fist drops, chops, and a gut-wrench suplex to keep the massive Ugandan warrior moving in off balance. For the first several minutes, Windham's speed and timing gave him the edge, and the Georgia Mountain Center crowd responded every time the young Windham brother landed a lariat or drove Kamala backward with clean offense. But Kamala is not a man you beat with rhythm alone. Once the Ugandan warrior began to settle in, the tone of the match changed. A choke against the ropes, a hot shot maneuver, and then a crushing Kamala splash in the 7th minute reminded everyone why his return has been such a point of concern in the NWA. Windham fought through it, kicking out and rallying again with more lariats and a standing dropkick, but every time he looked ready to build real momentum, Paul Jones was there to break the flow. Jones repeatedly slipped foreign objects to his man and inserted himself at exactly the right moments, keeping Kamala one step ahead. By the closing stretch, Windham was fighting not only Kamala's size and power, but also the constant presence of Jones at ringside. In the 13th minute, as Windham tried one more time to mount an offensive push with his left-hand chops, Jones reached in, tripped him, and held the leg just long enough for Kamala to seize the moment and score the pinfall. It was not a clean win, but it was an emphatic one. Kamala's return to the NWA is now official, and with Paul Jones pulling the strings, the balance of power may be shifting yet again.
Post-match interview. Paul Jones and Kamala. Impressive? Tony Schiavone, you don't even know the half of it. What you just saw was not just a victory. What you just saw was another warning shot to every wrestler in the National Wrestling Alliance. People have been laughing, whispering, wondering what Paul Jones has been building. Well, now you're looking at it. Look at this man right here. Kamala, the Ugandan warrior. And he is just one part of the most fearsome army in professional wrestling. You want to talk about power? I've got the Warlord, the Mid-Atlantic heavyweight champion. You want to talk about destruction? I've got Konga the Barbarian. I've got the Super Destroyer. I've got Abdullah the Butcher. And now I brought Kamala into the fold. Paul Jones points directly into the camera. There is no stable in wrestling that can match what I have assembled. Not the Horsemen. Not the Funks. Not Hot Stuff International. Nobody. You can call them monsters. You can call them mercenaries. You can call them whatever you want. I call them winners. I call them the future. And anybody standing in our way better understand something right now. Paul Jones' army is not coming. Paul Jones' army is already here. Jones turns toward Kamala, who glares into the camera, slaps his stomach, and lets out a wild yell as Jones grins. And this is only the beginning.
Singles bout. Mike Rotundo versus Al Perez. Referee, Tommy Young. Al Perez stepped into the ring tonight under very different circumstances than we've grown accustomed to seeing. For the first time in weeks, there was no baby doll at ringside, no first-class presence, and no outside influence, just Perez, standing on his own. And what followed may have been one of the most important performances of his career. Perez opened the match methodically, grounding Mike Rotundo early with an armbar before transitioning smoothly into a twisting headlock. Rotundo, as always, answered with grit and conditioning, countering with a strong reverse Nelson and later shifting momentum with his patented airplane spin that nearly stole an early fall at the 3-minute mark. The match quickly developed into a classic contrast of styles, Perez's calculated, technical dismantling against Rotundo's explosive bursts of offense. Rotundo stayed competitive through the early going, landing counters, hammerlocks, and defensive shots to keep himself within striking distance, even briefly holding the lead. But by the middle portion of the match, Perez began tightening the screws. A perfectly executed spinning backbreaker in the 6th minute marked the turning point. From there, Perez controlled the pace, repeatedly going back to his strengths, twisting headlocks, precision strikes to the body, and, most importantly, his increasingly dangerous spinning toe hold. Rotundo continued to fight, countering with a standing armbar and later a drop toe hold, but the momentum had clearly shifted. By the 8th minute, Perez had firmly taken command. He continued to wear Rotundo down, nearly securing a victory in the 9th minute with the spinning toe hold, drawing a strong 2 count. Rotundo refused to quit, surviving another exchange and briefly mounting resistance with a hammerlock and counters off the ropes, but Perez's control of the match never wavered. In the final minute, Perez went back to what brought him there. Another spinning toe hold, this time applied with authority and precision, led directly to the decisive pinfall at 13 minutes. And then came the moment that may matter even more than the victory itself. After the match, Al Perez extended his hand and Mike Rotundo accepted. No interference. No controversy. No first class. Just a clean win and perhaps the beginning of something new. With Baby Doll conspicuously absent and first class nowhere to be found, the question now becomes unavoidable. Is Al Perez standing alone, and if so, is that exactly where he belongs? Result, Al Perez pinned Mike Rotundo 13 minutes. Singles bout. Rocky Johnson versus Hangman Bobby Jaggers. Referee, Tommy Young. Rocky Johnson came into this one looking to make a statement, and from the opening bell, he wasted absolutely no time doing just that. Jaggers tried to establish control early with a knee lift to the midsection, but Johnson answered immediately with a burst of lightning dropkicks that electrified the crowd and nearly ended the match inside the first minute. That set the tone. Jaggers would bring the fight, but Johnson would bring the speed, the explosiveness, and the impact. As the match progressed, Jaggers attempted to slow things down using rough tactics, hair pulls, lariats, and heavy strikes, but every time he created an opening, Johnson answered with authority. A crushing Soulman powerslam in the 3rd minute shifted the momentum firmly in Johnson's favor, and from there, he dictated the pace. Jaggers did manage one serious threat in the 6th minute, catching Johnson with a lariat and going for a pin attempt that drew a 1 count, but it only delayed the inevitable. Because once Johnson regained control, he closed the door emphatically. In the 7th minute, Johnson planted Jaggers with another perfectly executed Soulman powerslam, this one dead center in the ring, and this time there was no escape. 1, 2, 3. A clean, decisive victory for Rocky Johnson. And more importantly, a reminder that when Johnson is firing on all cylinders, he remains one of the most dangerous and dynamic competitors anywhere in the NWA. Result: Rocky Johnson pinned Bobby Jaggers, 7:36.
Well, Tony, first of all, let me say this: I came out here tonight to prove something, and I think I did just that. Bobby Jaggers is a tough man, no question about it, but I showed everybody here in Florida and everybody watching on TBS that Rocky Johnson is back, and I'm coming stronger than ever. And you're right, number 4 in Florida now. That's not just a number to me, Tony. That means I'm right there, right within striking distance of the Florida Heavyweight Championship. Johnson leans in slightly, focused. And Buzz Sawyer, I know you're watching. You're the man holding that title right now. You're the man everybody's chasing. Well, I want you to understand something: Rocky Johnson is coming. And when I get my opportunity, I'm gonna take that title the right way, in that ring. But let's not forget something else, Tony, because I don't do this alone. That's right, me and Tony Atlas. The Soul Patrol. Number 7 in the NWA, and climbing. And we're looking real hard at those Funk brothers. Crowd pops. Terry Funk, Dory Funk, you boys are holding not 1, but 2 sets of gold. Florida Tag Team titles. United States Tag Team titles. But what everybody wants to know is, are you gonna defend M? Or are you gonna hold M up? Johnson shakes his head. Because one way or another, that situation's gonna get settled. And when it does, you better believe this: the Soul Patrol is right there in the Florida Tag Team title picture. And not just Florida, Tony, we want those United States Tag Team titles too. Johnson points toward the camera. So Funk brothers, you can run, you can stall, you can play games if you want, but sooner or later, you're gonna have to step in that ring. And when you do, you're gonna be standing across from Rocky Johnson and Tony Atlas. And we're coming for the gold.
Tony Schiavone. Fans, we are back here on World Championship Wrestling, and right now I am joined by the president of the National Wrestling Alliance, Jim Crockett Jr. And Jim, there is no question, the biggest topic in professional wrestling right now is the controversy surrounding the NWA World Heavyweight Championship belt. Jim Crockett Jr. That's right, Tony, and I want to address that head on. There's no denying the situation. Bob Backlund is the recognized NWA World Heavyweight Champion. He won that title in the ring. That decision stands. But at the same time, Lex Luger leaving with the physical big gold belt, that's something that the National Wrestling Alliance is taking very seriously. Tony Schiavone. And Jim, there has also been criticism from Ole Anderson, who felt he deserved an opportunity. Jim Crockett Jr. And Ole Anderson does deserve that opportunity. He defeated Bob Backlund previously, and in this organization, that matters. That's why tonight, right here on TBS, Ole Anderson will get a shot at the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. And I've got to say this, Tony, I'm proud that we can bring a match of that magnitude to television. This is what the NWA is all about, the best competition, right here for the fans. Tony Schiavone. No question about that. But Jim, you mentioned you had a major announcement as well. Jim Crockett Jr. Yes, I do. Crockett pauses, deliberate. The National Wrestling Alliance has officially come to terms with one of the most dominant forces the sport has ever seen. Along with their manager, Precious Paul Ellering. Former NWA World Heavyweight Champion. Former World Tag Team Champions. Former SPW Universal Tag Team Champions. The Road Warriors are returning to the NWA. Crowd reaction swells. Jim Crockett Jr. And let me make this very clear, they are not easing their way back in. The Road Warriors will be immediately recognized as the #1 ranked tag team in the National Wrestling Alliance. And individually, Road Warrior Hawk, a former World Heavyweight Champion, will be slotted in the #1 contender position. Road Warrior Animal will enter the rankings at number 4. Tony Schiavone. That is going to shake things up across the board. Jim Crockett Jr. It already has, Tony. And I'll tell you something else. The Road Warriors have some unfinished business in New York. Crowd murmurs. And while they're there, maybe they can bring back the Power Championship belt. Crockett leans in slightly, tone tightening. Because right now, there are questions that need to be answered. And there may be certain incentives for anyone willing to step forward and help resolve this situation. Tony Schiavone. You're talking about Lex Luger. Jim Crockett Jr. I'm talking about restoring order to the National Wrestling Alliance. But if someone happens to bring back the big gold belt, I don't think they'll leave empty-handed. Tony Schiavone. Fans, you heard it, the Road Warriors are coming back. The NWA World title will be defended tonight, and the situation surrounding Lex Luger is far from over. We'll be right back with more World Championship Wrestling. This one had all the makings of a classic television showdown, wrestling fundamentals versus brute force, but what it turned into was something far more chaotic and far more controversial. Briscoe, Graham, and Blair came out sharp, using quick tags and precision wrestling to keep Paul Jones' army off balance early. Blair opened aggressively with a head scissors, and from there the babyfaces worked a smart, technical game isolating Conga the Barbarian and forcing the larger men into exchanges they clearly didn't want. But as expected, Paul Jones' army turned the match into a war. By the middle portion of the bout, Abdullah the Butcher and company began overwhelming Briscoe with sheer numbers and power. Double and triple team attacks right in front of referee Tommy Young shifted momentum. Headbutts, back smashes, and crushing blows in the corner slowed the pace and dragged the match into Jones' territory. Still, the babyfaces refused to break. Blair re-entered late and changed everything. With the crowd firmly behind him, Blair exploded into action, fireman's carry takeovers, front facelocks, and quick transitions that neutralized Abdullah's offense. Then came the turning point. At the 17-minute mark, Blair locked Abdullah the Butcher in the figure 4 leg lock. The Omni crowd came alive. Abdullah was trapped in the center of the ring. Graham and Briscoe cut off any interference. For a moment, just a moment, it looked like Paul Jones' army was about to be beaten. And that's when everything broke down. Conga the Barbarian stormed the ring to make the save, drawing Briscoe and Graham into a full-scale melee. As referee Tommy Young struggled to restore order, Blair still had the hold applied, but in the chaos, Abdullah lashed out, kicking Blair violently through the ropes to the floor. What happened next was not wrestling. As Blair hit the outside, Paul Jones immediately moved in, directing traffic, and just out of the referee's line of sight, Blair was attacked on the floor, double-teamed, and driven into the ringside area before he could recover. Back inside, the referee had no choice but to begin the count. The crowd erupted, sensing what was happening. Blair struggled, tried to get back, but the damage had been done. 10 count. The bell rang. And just like that, a match Paul Jones' army was seconds away from losing was handed to them. Abdullah the Butcher wins by count-out. But nobody in the building believed this was a clean victory. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to World Championship Wrestling here on TBS, and standing by with us at the podium, the NWA World Television Champion. Barry Windham scheduled for action here tonight in what was to be a non-title matchup against Iron Mike Sharpe. Now we've heard throughout the day that Sharpe may not be feeling 100%, but as of right now, we have not been told that match is off. Barry Windham. Well, Tony, being the World Television Champion is a championship that gets defended everywhere. World Championship Wrestling. Mid-Atlantic. Championship Wrestling from Florida. Wherever the NWA goes, this title goes. And I take a lot of pride in that. Right now I'm ranked number 9 in the National Wrestling Alliance, but I'm not worried about where I'm ranked, I'm worried about who's stepping up. Because every week, somebody's looking to make their name at my expense. Crockett. And tonight, as we mentioned, it was supposed to be Iron Mike Sharpe in a non-title matchup. Windham, cutting in slightly. That's right. This wasn't about a title defense tonight, this was a tune-up match. But even those matter. Because when you're holding this championship, you don't take nights off. Lean slightly forward. And I know who's out there. Maniac Mark Lewin. Terry Funk. And now, you've got people coming back into the territory. Pause, slight shift in tone. Dick Murdoch. Crowd reacts lightly. Now I've known Dick a long time. My family's known Dick a long time. And with him, it's always been a little unpredictable. And lately, it looks like he's running with the Funks. We all saw what happened in that War Games match. That wasn't wrestling, that was a war. And they walked out of it on top. Slight intensity now. So when you've got guys like that moving around, you stay ready. Because you never know when one of them is gonna come calling. Relaxes slightly. But tonight, as far as I know, I've got Iron Mike Sharpe. And whoever it is that steps in that ring with me, they're getting the World Television Champion at his best. Barry Windham stood in the ring ready for what he believed would be a routine non-title tune-up against Iron Mike Sharpe. Sharpe did make his way out, but something was clearly wrong. Clutching his left arm, notably not the one protected by his infamous cast, Sharpe hesitated on the aisle, visibly in discomfort and in no condition to compete. The crowd buzzed with confusion, and then, from behind the curtain, Dick Murdoch emerged. With a smirk and a casual pat on Sharpe's shoulder, Murdoch waved him off and made it clear he'd be taking things from here. Without ceremony, Murdoch headed straight to the ring, effectively inserting himself into the match. Barry Windham didn't look pleased, but he didn't look surprised either. The bell rang, and just like that, the tone of the match changed completely. Murdoch brought a rugged, unpolished style, heavy elbow drops, headlock punches, and blunt force offense designed to disrupt Windham's rhythm early. He scored quickly with a crushing elbow drop in the opening minute, trying to impose his pace. But Windham answered like a champion. Using speed and precision, Windham countered with aerial hip tosses, twisting reverses, and a series of perfectly timed dropkicks that kept Murdoch from ever fully settling into control. Every time Murdoch tried to slow things down, Windham sped them back up. The middle portion of the match became a tight, back-and-forth contest. Murdoch relied on strength body slams, fireman's carries, and grinding offense, while Windham stayed one step ahead with athletic counters and fluid transitions. By the 10th minute, Windham began to pull ahead. A perfectly executed flying dropkick stunned Murdoch and nearly ended the match, forcing a quick kick out. From there, Wyndham increased the pressure, uppercuts, ring awareness, and a key moment where he sent Murdoch hard into the ring post shifted momentum decisively. Murdoch continued to fight, landing another heavy elbow drop in the 11th minute, but the damage was beginning to show. Then came the finish. In the 13th minute, Murdoch attempted to re-establish control with a body slam, but Wyndham countered, bounced off the ropes, and delivered a running bulldog that snapped Murdoch down to the canvas. 1, 2, 3. Barry Windham scores a clean victory. But make no mistake, this was no tune-up. Dick Murdoch made his presence felt, and Barry Windham had to earn every second of this win. Tony Schiavone. Ladies and gentlemen, we are back here on World Championship Wrestling, and joining us now, perhaps the most dominant force in professional wrestling today, the Four Horsemen. David Crockett. And Tony, when you talk about championships, nobody holds more gold than this group right here. Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard, the NWA World Tag Team Champions, all four men collectively holding the NWA World Six-Man Tag Team titles, and of course, Ric Flair, the United States Heavyweight Champion. Schiavone. And let's not forget, later tonight, Ole Anderson will step into the ring against Bob Backlund for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. J.J. Dillon. Smooth, confident, slightly amused. You know, Tony. David. I find it very interesting. We were all standing in the back just a few moments ago, watching Barry Windham. And let me say this, congratulations, Barry, on your victory over Dick Murdoch. Slight smirk. Because quite frankly, we were all waiting to see if Murdoch was going to do what Murdoch usually does. Jump somebody. Make a statement. Leave a mess behind. But instead, what did we get? A calm, composed, almost respectable version of good old Captain Redneck. Now that surprised me. Ric Flair. Immediate energy, pacing slightly. Let me tell you something, Dillon, it surprised me too. Barry Windham, you went out there, you handled your business, and you beat a man that nobody takes lightly. But don't get comfortable. Because in this sport, one night you're standing tall, the next night, somebody's coming for what you've got. And speaking of somebody running around with something that doesn't belong to him. Lex Luger. What? You're riding around town with the big gold belt like it's yours to keep? Let me tell you something, pal. If you know what's good for you, you bring that belt back. Because the longer you hold on to it, the more attention you're gonna get. Calm slightly, adjusts tone. Now don't get me wrong, I've got my eyes on that championship. Always have. Always will. But in this situation, Ole Anderson has earned his shot. He's got history with Backlund. He's got the seniority. And tonight, the Horsemen stand behind Ole. Point slightly. And while Ole's taking care of business in the main event, I'll be stepping into that ring with Brother Arn and Brother Tully to defend the World's Six-Man Tag Team titles against those maniacs, the Funk Brothers. And let me tell you something. That's gonna be a fight. What? Arn Anderson. You hear a lot of talk about schedules, about pressure, about holding multiple championships. Let me make something real clear. We don't adjust to pressure. Pressure adjusts to us. Yeah, we've got the World Tag Team titles. Yeah, we've got the Six-Man titles. And yeah, we've got challengers lined up everywhere we go. But that's the cost of being the best. And we don't complain about it. We collect on it. Tully Blanchard. That's right. Everybody's looking at the Horsemen like we've got too much on our plate. Too many matches, too many titles, too much responsibility. Let me tell you something. We're the only group in professional wrestling that can do all of that. And still live better than anybody else in this sport. Leans in slightly. We defend championships. We make money. And when we're done, we find the finest things in life. Because that's what being a horseman is all about. Ole Anderson. You boys can talk about belts, money, all that stuff. That's fine. Locks into camera. But tonight, this is about one thing. Bob Backlund. I beat you before. You remember that. I don't care how it happened, I beat you. And now you've got that title. Tone hardens. I don't care what belt you bring to that ring tonight. I don't care if it's the big gold belt. I don't care if it's the 10 pounds of gold. It doesn't matter. Steps closer. I've got 20 minutes. 20 minutes to beat you. And I'm gonna do it. Points directly. Tonight's the night, Backlund. I'm walking in. I'm beating you up. And I'm walking out with whatever championship you've got. Quiet, dangerous. And there's nothing you're gonna do about it. Schiavone. Still to come, Ole Anderson challenges Bob Backlund for the NWA World Heavyweight Championship. Crockett. And the six-man titles on the line, the Horsemen against the Funks. Schiavone. Stay with us, World Championship Wrestling continues. If there was ever any doubt about the volatility of six-man competition, this match erased it in under 10 minutes. From the opening bell, Ric Flair and Terry Funk set the tone, and it was anything but scientific. Flair attempted to slow things down early with a bow and arrow and precise takedowns, but Terry Funk immediately turned the match into a fight, raking the eyes and throwing wild strikes that forced Flair out of his comfort zone. Once Arn Anderson entered, things escalated quickly. The match broke down into the kind of rugged, unpredictable chaos that has defined every encounter between the Horsemen and the Funk family. Eye rakes, left hands, and constant tagging kept both teams in motion, with neither side able to establish prolonged control. But as always, the difference was organization. The Horsemen operated like a unit. The Funks fought like a storm. By the 7th minute, outside influence came into play as J.J. Dillon discreetly inserted himself into the action, catching Jimmy Jack Funk with a well-placed kick behind the referee's line of sight, shifting momentum just enough for the champions to capitalize. Then came the breaking point. In the 8th minute, the match erupted into a full six-man brawl. All competitors flooded the ring, and for a moment, it was impossible to tell who had the advantage. The Funks fired off a rapid sequence, a body slam on the top rope, a small package, and a grinding leg lock, but the Horsemen answered instantly with ruthless efficiency. Flair locked in the figure four. Arn delivered a brutal eye rake. Tully launched a slingshot suplex that shook the ring. That was the difference. The Horsemen didn't just respond, they overwhelmed. Moments later, Flair isolated Jimmy Jack Funk, drove him down with a piledriver, and covered. 1, 2, 3. And just like that, it was over. The Four Horsemen retained the NWA World Six-Man Tag Team titles not by surviving the chaos, but by mastering it. The stakes could not have been higher. Bob Backlund, now a three-time NWA World Heavyweight Champion, entered this match carrying not just the title, but the responsibility of restoring order amid controversy surrounding the championship itself. Across from him stood Ole Anderson, a founding member of the Four Horsemen, a master tactician, and a man who had already proven he could defeat Backlund. From the opening bell, this was not flashy. This was grinding, deliberate, championship wrestling. Both men opened with clean grappling exchanges, arm drags, counters, and positional wrestling. Backlund used his agility early, scoring with a monkey flip and quick takedowns, but Ole quickly shifted the tone. A stiff right hand in the second minute changed everything. From there, Ole began targeting the arm and lower back, slowing the pace and forcing Backlund into a fight instead of a wrestling match. By the 3rd minute, Ole had already thrown Backlund to the outside, making the champion fight the count just to stay alive. Ole wasn't trying to win quickly. He was trying to wear Backlund down. Backlund responded like a champion. Using conditioning and technical precision, he began chaining together offense. Hip tosses inside headlock takeovers, repeated hammerlocks to control Ole's base shoulder blocks to break Ole's rhythm. By the 10-minute mark, the momentum had clearly shifted. Backlund wasn't just surviving anymore, he was dictating the match. Ole still fired back with knees to the lower back and grinding holds, but Backlund's pace was becoming a factor. The champion's output steadily increased, forcing Ole into a defensive posture he rarely occupies. In the 14th minute, Backlund reversed a standing armlock into a suplex, scoring a near fall that nearly ended the match. Moments later, a side headlock takeover 2 count, a monkey flip, another 2 count. Ole Anderson was being pushed to the limit. Then came the most dangerous moment of the match. The chicken wing. Backlund locked it in tight in the 18th minute, center of the ring. Ole Anderson was trapped. The crowd came alive. For a moment, it looked like the Horseman might actually submit. But Ole endured. He absorbed the pressure. And when the opening came, he took it. The match spilled outside. Both men exhausted. Both men throwing everything they had left. Referee Tommy Young began the count as Backlund and Ole battled along the apron and ringside floor. 5, 6, 7. Backlund attempted to reassert control, but Ole slipped free and rolled back into the ring. 8. Backlund turned to follow, but suddenly halted. Out of nowhere and completely unseen by the referee, J.J. Dillon emerged from beneath the ring, grabbing Backlund by the ankle and holding him in place. Backlund struggled, kicked, reached, tried to break free. 9. Dillon held just long enough. The bell rang. Official result. Ole Anderson defeats Bob Backlund via countout, 1947. Backlund finally broke free and slid into the ring, but it was too late. Ole Anderson, breathing heavy but composed, immediately called for the championship belt. And before anyone could intervene, he took it. Ole Anderson raised the NWA World Heavyweight Championship high above his head, shouting that he had beaten the champion, that the title belonged to him now. J.J. Dillon regrouped behind him, satisfied. Backlund stood across the ring furious, stunned, realizing not only had he been robbed of the match, but now, he didn't even have possession of the championship. Ole Anderson backing up the aisle, holding the belt high. J.J. Dillon at his side. Bob Backlund in the ring, empty-handed. Thank you for tuning into World Championship Wrestling, brought to you by the NWA and the SPW Alliance. Next show is NWA 444, Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling TV show from the Charlotte Coliseum.